Hey, 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 chica! Welcome to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast, the show where women share their personal power tools, the techniques, strategies, and ways of being which have enabled their business and life success. I'm your host, Lovelda Vincenzi, a female speaker mentor, speaker, and event host on a mission to unleash authentic, powerful female voices onto the world. In today's episode, we'll be uncovering the power tools of Cheryl Young. Cheryl is a corporate chief financial officer, motivational speaker, and a proud wife and mother. She graduated from RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, in 1989 with a bachelor's in accounting. After several key finance roles, Cheryl returned to RIT to obtain an MBA in operations management and IT management. Cheryl has propelled her current organization by using money techniques learned throughout her decades-long experience managing finances and leading improvement projects for Fortune 500 companies. Cheryl's passion lies in helping everyday businesses manage money and traveling the world spreading financial wisdom. As you'd expect, today we'll be diving into money in business, including the one question you should absolutely ask your accountant and what their answer tells you about them and your relationship with them. Now remember, all of the links shared in today's show are found in the show notes. The only way to ensure that you get your regular fix of this show is to click that subscribe button right now to make sure that you get updates as soon as a new show is added. Well, that is quite enough from me for now. So let us get on with the show. Hey, welcome back to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. Guess what, ladies? You want to shop over to the YouTube channel because I took out that leopard print. I did. I'm looking like an animal. I'm looking like a tiger today. Ready to pounce. Sounds really awful, doesn't it? Does sound awful. Perfect. Anyhow, if this is the first time you joining live, then do hit that subscribe button because there's a ton of juiciness. Make sure you go back, listen to the old shows, and hit the subscribe button so you get notified when new shows are added so you do not miss your fix. Today's guest, we're back on the money topic, ladies. We are talking to a CFO come business woman helper outer. That's not even a proper term, but you know what I mean. Like proper corporate CFO now working with business owners like you and me, you know, the smaller folk, not the big multinationals, helping us do money better. Because you know what? She just loves it. Ladies, welcome to the show, Cheryl Young.
Yay, thank you. I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
God, I've lost my words. But you know what? Okay, so tell me, babe. How did you get into doing what you're doing? How did you become a CFO? I mean, I did a degree in accounting and financial management, and I just couldn't take it. I think I was too chatty. I just couldn't do it. Did you always have a passion for numbers and accounts, or did you stumble into it?
I somewhat stumbled into it, but I always had a passion for understanding money because it's what purchased things. And there was a lot of things that I wanted, whether it was shoes or fashion things or this, it just felt like all the things that I really liked in my life were expensive or they cost money. And so I was on a mission to learn that. And I thought, like many people, going into accounting was going to get me there. And I got my undergraduate degree in accounting and went to work for a public accounting firm, and I hated it.
Oh, no.
I hated it. It's true. I hated it. And I thought, oh no, what have I done? And what I realized was I really wanted to be a part of a company making money, not counting money.
Oh, okay. There's a difference.
There's a big difference between making money and counting money. So the bean counter kind of thing that comes up is about counting the money. Mm-hmm. But the real finance people give insight into how money is spent and how money is earned to make a really big advantage to a company so that they can make a really good business decision and understand it before they make decisions. So that's where I found my passion. So once I got into a company, into the finance department of a company, and I have had every role you can have in finance in a company. Every accounts payable, capital, accounts receivable, financial planning and analysis, general accounting, a little bit of investor relations work that I've helped with.
I mean, you've been in it.
Every aspect of finance. So when I think of the journey of being a CFO, it's having to understand every role, not just every role in finance, but every role in the business, because that's the business makes money, right? The business makes the profit in the products. So you have to understand how that process works so that you financially invest in the right area of the business to be very profitable, or to drive the profits and make good decisions and help people make the decision in the business, not have it filter back to you making the decisions, but teach them how to make the best decisions.
Oh my gosh, so much in that. So understanding like the full breadth of what it is that a company is doing. And I think that's quite important when we're talking to business owners, because
Yes.
here's what I see quite often. I'm just going to give that to my accountant, but there isn't necessarily that kind of two-way conversation between the business owner and the accountant. It's like, I'm going to do the business thing and the accountant can just tally it up at the end and see what happens.
Right.
And you're suggesting that's not how it should operate.
No, in
Oh
fact,
dear.
oh no, I feel very strongly that finance partners with the business in a way to give them feedback on how their decisions performed. So what could make a decision better is to understand, okay, what happened and now what can we do better? So when we partner with the business and help them really vet good ideas and model them, literally model out what we think they would do so that we make a good decision, whether it's a new product or whether it's cost improvements, whether it's investing in SG&A or engineering or marketing. You want to know what the outcome is going to be before you make the investment. So that's where we as finance partner with the business to help those decisions be like viewed in a way to be confident that those decisions are good.
I love what you say there. It's like you give feedback on how the decisions have performed, because sometimes, like, I'm just interpreting this from like the angle of my business, right? We look at the numbers at the end and we go, oh, there wasn't enough money. But to kind of at the end of each launch go, well, how did the decisions I made finance wise, not just the markets, like, could I have marketed it more cost effectively, for example?
Yes.
You know, were those Facebook ads really performing, or actually did we get more from the promotion that we did on social media? But this idea that finance and the money element it's almost like a decision-making yardstick. How did you do? Bad decision. Okay. Didn't perform well, that decision. That decision, not a high-performing decision. Maybe we make another one next time.
Correct. Or what are our choices? Did we look at all the choices we had? What could have been, what could we have done differently, and then try that next one? It's definitely, no decision is perfect, and every money decision has a little bit of risk to it, but you want to take the risk out by evaluating options and understanding what you're looking for. Is this going to provide the outcome we want? And then make those decisions.
So do you think small business owners, the entrepreneur, do you think that they should be working closer with their accountant? Do you think that a lot of small business owners are like missing a trick?
So they do, but they have to choose an accountant that is willing to have that discussion.
That's a good point.
You don't want to just, some accountants aren't ready for that. They know how to do the accounting or how to classify an expense. There's certain accountants want to participate in your business in a way to say, hey, why did you do this? Because this was kind of expensive. And what was the investment? And if you look at every dollar you spend is toward an investment for the future. So whether it's an asset or not, you're spending something that you're expecting something in return. So the kind of accountant you want is somebody that is going to help you go review it with a little bit of a critical eye. And that way, and you've got to kind of have some humbleness to be ready to say, you got to be a little humbled by, well, why would you do that? Or it's not always the easiest conversation to have, because you've got to stare your mistakes down, right? Especially if a decision lost money. More important is to really understand what works. Because if we get stuck in looking at what didn't work, we stay there. But looking at what worked and how you could do that better is also more, that is actually more powerful than looking at the mistakes. You got to be
like looking at the mistakes that much is just demoralizing.
demoralizing.
Like all you're doing is sitting there and going, okay, so I was a bad entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's not, that doesn't, you want to look for what went well, because that's what you want to repeat.
Mm-hmm.
So spending more time on what went well is a better use of your time, because then you'll get creative of actually growing something that's growing. And so it's kind of like, you can't always work on your weaknesses. Your strengths are more powerful. So improving your strengths sometimes is what makes your weaknesses not important. And that's what you want to do with your business. You want to make your business strengths more important. So focus on how to leverage them up is really where I think a strong financial partner can help you and not take you down. Because we all know, like, cost cutting becomes a death spiral, right? You cost cut. So cost cutting does not save your business. It's a very short-term minded thing. Whereas strategic growth items are what drive your business forward. So you've got to focus on smart costs, smart reductions, but you also have to drive growth. Mm-hmm. So you've got to be able to recognize that the bottom line isn't always what makes the best decision. The top line is where you grow, and then make a good decision on what you spend.
Girl, you be just dropping all kinds of juicy, like, I mean, there's so, girl, you ain't holding back today. You ain't holding back. So for the entrepreneur who perhaps is listening to this and up until now has gone, my accountant does that stuff about the end of the year, and then they send me something. I don't know what it says. I kind of sign the end of it, but we call it a day.
Yeah.
You know, some of us have been there before. You know, maybe
right.
me, maybe not. You know, some of us have been there before. Some of us are still living there. Some of us are evolving beyond it. In your opinion, what level of financial competence and understanding do you feel is like a minimum benchmark? Because not all of us are people who love the numbers. For some of us, it's just flipping confusing. It's all of this stuff that's flying at us. Getting into that level of detail or partnering with an accountant, it's like they're speaking a foreign language. I don't get it. So where should we be upskilling ourselves to at a minimum? What sort of things should we at least be able to understand?
So I feel like your finance partner has to be almost, you have to have the kind of connection you have with your hairdresser, right? Your hairdresser has your back. They're not going to let you leave the salon without
looking like a hot mess.
Exactly.
Because you don't come back.
You don't come back, right? You have to have that kind of a connection with your finance person. And so there's a couple questions that you would ask that person to get an idea of if that's the kind of person you want to work with. Mm-hmm. So the number one question I would ask them after they've done the tax return, I would say, you know, if this was your business, what would you advise? So that you can hear what they are thinking. And you'll know instantly if that answer to that question is someone that is someone you can continue to work with. Because if they give you an answer that is like, you should do this, this, and this, that's not the person. Mm-hmm. If they give you an answer and saying, look, I'd look into this area because this is going well, and what are you doing here that's making it go well? That's a conversation. So
somebody who wants to enter a dialogue rather than just because it's contextual, right? What's working and what isn't working is contextual. So if you have somebody who jumps to here's a list of things to do, then they don't have an interest in understanding the context. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. So the person that says, well, I'm curious, why did this happen? Mm-hmm. That person wants to know about your business. That person is going to have the dialogue where you're going to get to a common understanding and you're going to do well. Because one thing about finance people is they're super strong-willed and they have strong opinions. And so they do have a sense of entitlement in that they know more than other people know, because a lot of people don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. So, but that's not the person you want. The person you want is the person that says, I want to understand your business so that I can advise you the best of what's important to your business.
Advise.
Mm-hmm.
Advise. Their role is not to take the decisions.
Right.
It's to advise, to provide you with information
Correct.
based on, or provide you with proposals or options based on information. That's
Right.
advice.
Right. Prioritize. This is the best return on investment. This is not so good, but it's easier and less expensive.
So you do a lot of corporate stuff.
I do.
But you also do stuff with other businesses and work with business owners. How did you have that transition? What was it that had you decide to do that as well?
So I've been in corporate a lot, but I love people. I really love people, and I love to see people succeed. It's kind of in my bones. I don't want to see anyone fail. So as I started to realize that there was some opportunity in online businesses and specifically courses, I would thought, you know what, I could do a really good business course or a really good finance course. I started to look at either network marketing. I started to look at what was out there on the online space. And what I recognized was there's a huge promise of all this income, and there's not a lot of substance behind it. And I was kind of merging all of my experience in what I know makes a business successful in this noise of just sign up and you're going to make all this money. And I thought, wait a minute, everything's a little bit of a business. And so what I felt like is there's people that need help. Like they want to make money, but there's a couple of skills they might need. So how could I help them? Because I've been doing this my whole life. And it was at a time when my son went to college. So we are empty nesters. And my son went to college, and I didn't know what I was going to do with all this extra time. Because you would literally fall off a cliff. They graduate and go to college and your house goes silent.
You're like, what? I wanted quiet, but now I don't want it.
Bring it back. Bring him and his friends back. I miss him so much. And so I had to, and I have a lot of energy. I have a boatload of energy. So I said, where am I going to use this energy to be positive? And this is kind of where I found that I could use what I know to help people, especially the beginner business person, because they feel like a failure, but most businesses lose money before they make money.
That's true.
So I didn't want people to feel like a failure because they were losing money when it's normal. And, but all this noise says, oh, I made $500,000 in 6 months. I'm like, what? It's just not realistic.
We have a mutual friend, because Katia was one of these, let's just call them anomalies. But she also, and we interviewed her earlier on the series, so do jump back and listen.
I'll have to check
marketing queen.
Yes.
But she says, she, made a boatload in 3 months, quit her job, and then it just kind of took off. But she went, I'm an anomaly. It's not normal.
It's not normal.
It's not how it normally operates. Don't look at me and judge yourself by that. Just don't do it.
Right.
It was timing and a whole bunch of other things lined up just perfectly that it was, it was designed to do that. But sometimes you're ahead of the market, or you're a bit behind the market, or you're in a very competitive space, or, she happened to have kicked off just as Periscope was going crazy. And she got in right on the ground accidentally, and it was just perfect timing. And so for most business owners, that's not the case.
Right, exactly. But she's very financially savvy. And so she knew not to overinvest. And so she didn't go backwards before she went forward. She had already made really good, smart money decisions. So when the marketing kicked off, it exploded.
Yeah.
And that's a positive thing. Everybody can do that. It just has to take a lot of different, and again, that marketing skill is a huge asset. When you know how to market, that is a big deal. Because when I talked to Katya, marketing was not my thing. I told her, I think this marketing is voodoo. I am a finance person.
It's voodoo.
It's voodoo. What are you talking about? So I have had to embrace my inner marketing spirit, because it was deep buried and I didn't have that. Most finance people talk to their salespeople and marketing people, and they say, I spend money, Cheryl, I spend, you save. And I'm like, no. We all make a good decision.
We all make good decisions. But I love what you said there, because sometimes listen, sometimes the good stuff gets buried in the conversation, but there's
Yes.
something you said in there about, and it was in relation to Katya, but also very much in relation to the running of a business, which is making sound financial choices and not over investing. And
Correct.
I mean, I know I've personally fallen foul to it. I am totally like, on more than one occasion, I'd like to be able to say, no, I'm cured. Never happened to me. Nope, I've been there, got hooked, line and sinkered. And it's what I call the speculative investing. Do you see this a lot?
All the time. And I'm not immune either. I just have this process of reevaluating. So I tend to go back and say, what was I thinking when I bought this? And then I go back and tell them, when I bought this, I had these expectations and you certainly didn't live up to those expectations. Is there a refund? I'm not afraid to ask for something when it doesn't meet my expectations. And I will give 100% to something. If I don't, then I know it's my fault.
Yeah.
But if I give 100% and it still didn't meet my expectations, I'm like, oh no, this was not what you sold me.
It was never going to deliver it wasn't designed to do that.
Correct. Exactly. And I think that you go through phases where when you're learning something new and you can't learn it fast enough, you buy into a lot more. It's just having that's where a budget is your friend, right? You give yourself a budget, and when you hit the line, say, okay, I'm not buying anything till next month's budget is open, so that you don't overspend in 1 month and then you're in trouble. So I feel like a budget is what gives me those guides that help me keep me in the guides.
Quick question before we move on to the next kind of segment. Do you see any discernible difference between the way female entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs run their finances, or are we all equally as messy as each other?
Let's see. Well, I think that females have a different heart. Like, we are more willing to spend on other people because we want to take care of them. So we will spend on our children. We will spend on our spouses. We will spend on the people that we love. Our friend, we will do that because that is where our heart is. And I think men have stronger boundaries. So they find a different way to connect to people without spending money. They just don't always feel like they have to spend money to get anything done, and then they move on. So I think there's a somewhat of a difference in that. We will sacrifice ourselves to help other people, and men just don't always do that. And I think
that's a really interesting point, because especially in the coaching sector, that looks like over-servicing a client. And that is expensive. Yes. That costs money, even though it's not a spend. Like, you don't see money physically leaving your account because that coaching call that should have been half an hour was an hour and a half, in those sort of scenarios. Yes. But that is a cost to your business, because that extra hour you could have dedicated to something else that would have been more effective. So this is back to those decisions where they only paid for half an hour, but your boundaries have now meant you're over delivering and over servicing clients. And so I wanted to pull that out, because sometimes we see it as the physical exchange of money, but sometimes with boundaries with women, it's not even a physical exchange. It's just the giving, the giving when they didn't pay.
Exactly. Because think of, if you're in an accounting firm, it's all about billable hours. So and lawyers, right? Billable hours. And when you're an entrepreneur, you have to think in billable hours. So when you give an extra half an hour away, you just took away another client. You took away that capacity that could have been another client. And so you want to be aware of those things, because the next time, as you're growing, you give it away because it seems easy. But there's a time frame when, as you grow, you won't have it to give away. And now you change the expectation. So
now somebody who was used to jumping on a call that was originally half an hour and always got 45 minutes to an hour, and you now tell them they're going to get their half hour because that's what they paid for, they're upset because that's not what you've been delivering up until now. And that kind of conflict. But it's something, it's definitely something to remain aware of. If this is speaking to your soul, darling, you need to stop and take a moment to reflect.
Right. Think of an example, because if you're out to a restaurant, right, and the restaurant sees you there for the first time and they want to super please you, and they give you a huge portion and all these extras, right? And you're like, this is
That's
amazing.
amazing. They
Right.
have great portions.
It's unbelievable. And you come back the next time and it's just normal. You're like, what happened? So, and you get, it changes your perspective on this. So I feel like it's important to kind of set your boundaries, or if you're going to give extra, make sure you tell them, we're supposed to be done by this time. But I'm definitely willing to give you another 15 minutes. Make sure they know you're giving them value.
Mm-hmm.
So the next time when they have to cut off at a half an hour, they understand that was the normal and they got extra last time.
But understand when you don't do that, boo-boo, that's on you.
Yeah, exactly. You got to have some awareness. The timer is your friend.
Set it. Just kind of go, the oven's gone off, my phone's wrong. Do you know what the best one is? I have another call starting in 2 minutes. Yes. You don't have to have another call starting in 2 minutes, but it went ding, ding. So Correct. That means I have another call. So I need to wrap this up.
Exactly. And that's true.
A commitment. Yeah.
It's a commitment. And it's true of meetings that aren't it's true of many things, because sometimes meetings go on longer than they need to be when they could be done in a certain time. So I have often said it's more important to end a meeting on time than start a meeting on time. Because that is where the value is. Because it doesn't take that long to make the decision, but it does take that long to have everybody heard. But now you have to make sure you do that quickly. So,
and it's a good test for yourself. Just play with it for a little bit. Just, think of it like bringing more money into your business, because that's effectively what it's doing immediately. Just making 100%. You more profitable straight overnight.
Instantly.
Cheryl, from your perspective, darling, what is it, working with large organizations, seeing like how the money kind of moves around and different individuals interact with that, right? They have their own little connection to or disconnection from the financial conversation. What is it that you've seen, from your perspective, that you think makes a woman powerful? What's the essence of a woman's power?
So I feel like the essence of our power as women is that we can prioritize and take action quickly. We have to be decisive. When I think back to when my son was little and I was a working mother and I had a certain amount that had to get done and I had to work all day. In order to get that done, I had to decide what was important and get it done. Mm-hmm. So I would be very quick to make decisions, very quick to evaluate and make decisions. Or if I didn't have enough information, recognize I didn't have enough information to make a decision and tell myself that. So I didn't over rush a decision, but I would know there's not enough here to make a decision. So this is going to have to wait. So prioritizing that stuff is what I feel like has made a huge difference as far as women versus men. Because especially my own self, I had to get so much done being a working mom that changed the way I did things. And it made me recognize like perfectionism isn't always productive. So good enough got it done. And the things. And then the things that had to be perfect were only a few things. The rest of it just had to get done.
Oh, I love that. As you're talking, I'm thinking there's games we can play with ourselves, because I watch women who otherwise make really sound decisions, like super sound decisions, work incredibly well under pressure, faff in business.
Yes.
I may have been one of them, a while back. But games that I think are because sometimes we just need a little game with ourselves.
Yes.
If you take away or arbitrarily create a situation in which you have to make the decision faster because you've got a target to meet each month, you'll do it. Because if you think of like the idea of when you've got children and a busy day, or you're running your business on the side and got a full-time job and you make those decisions quickly, because frankly, you ain't got the time to sit on it and faff around for ages. And so it forces you to prioritize the decisions that are most important and make those first. And I think when we don't have that structure set up in some way, even if it's arbitrarily set up in our business, sometimes through finance structures where your accountant's going to call you and ask you why you didn't hit your target this week. Something like that, to force you to make a quick decision. You'll sit on a new idea for 500 years working out how exactly to get the tech and blah, blah, blah out. But if you had to sell something by the end of the week, trust me, that website would have a pin in it and you'd be picking up the phone.
Yeah, exactly. You have a different priority. You would change priorities quickly. So it's 100%. So I feel like that's where you brought up a point that I like people to understand. Your skills are transferable. Your life skills, all the stuff that you're good at in life is transferable to your money.
I'm lost for words again. I'm like totally lost for words again. I'm sitting here, I'm like, that. Yeah, I might have to do a meme out of it. That.
Yes.
That right there.
And when you realize that like decision making is part of your money and you're already a good decision maker, now you're just going to learn it in your money. And that's the transferable nature of it.
Girl, you got to make it sound so darn easy. That's it. It's just decision making, darling. That's it. Just decision making.
Just one good decision at a time.
Well, when you put it like that, I don't know why you've all been faffing up until now.
Well, we do get a lot of things get in the way, that's for sure.
I'm going to ask you the mean question I ask all my guests. Yes, I bring my guests on here to be somewhat mean, but we need to know. So you being the first financial officer we've had here, I feel like, chief financial officer, somebody who knows money, works with companies, understands how to manage money for profit. This is important. So these tools, these power tools, I am very, very interested to hear because I love that perspective of the person handling the money. What is their essence? So here's the mean question. If I were to ask you to take everything that you've done in life and in business and boil it down to just 3 things, like 3 tools, techniques, or ways of being that you would say were the essence and the core of your success, what would they be?
Okay, let's see.
I told you it was me.
I know. It's not too bad. All right, so if I would to say, take it down to 3 things, especially from a chief financial officer, conflict. So this one is, I think, one of the hardest ones to do, but if you can handle conflict with kindness, because conflict gets you better decisions. When you can hear conflicting views in a kind way, and it doesn't stifle people, that they are willing to share their opinion, you will get a better decision out of conflict.
Like right here, like right. Like I'm just the layers in that. When
There's
somebody says something and you're like, because I know in business there are lots of those conversations, or you're looking to do something new and fresh, and it's so precious to you. It's like your thing. The last thing you want is to hear somebody poop over it.
Right.
Because that feels like conflict and an attack.
Exactly.
It's like conflict. It feels like an attack, which is conflict.
It's conflict, which is why I have to say it's got to be conflict with kindness. Because that person that gets poo-pooed with all that negativity is not going to give you another idea. But what you want is conflict to allow you to build an idea up, not knock it down. So let's weather it. Let's make sure we test it. Let's test it with what could go wrong. That kind of conflict makes it a stronger answer and a stronger solution. And so that's where the kindness comes, is you've got to prepare people that this is going to make our products better. So let's fight it out. Let's figure out what the conflicting views are and why, and let's resolve them to make the product better.
That's also inviting that conflict.
Yes.
And that can be, especially if it's like your core idea. It's being able to have that moment with yourself where you say, listen, it's a big girl panties day today, okay?
Yes.
We're going to go out there and ask people to poop on this.
Exactly.
And some of the poop just smells and we need to get rid of it. But some of it is what,
what we need to know.
What we need. Like it's got seeds in it. It's going to help the business grow. That sounds like a really, really dirty analogy.
Yes.
I have to do better.
Well, it's just true. You want to know what'll go wrong. You want to make it better, and you want your idea to grow. And so if your idea has the strength of those seeds, you want people to make it stronger. I think I use the analogy of a rose bush. Out there, I one time grew a rose bush. And what you have to do is limit your watering in the beginning. When you plant a rose bush, you have to limit the watering in the beginning, because you want the roots to go deep.
Yeah.
Because that's where the water is, so that they'll sustain longer term. if you water it and take care of it, the roots won't grow deep, and it will die once you stop watering it. It won't have the ability to self-sustain. You want your idea to have deep roots. So you want the people to tell you what could go wrong so that its roots are deep and stable. That's the analogy that comes to mind in my idea, because the greatest products are stable on their own. The greatest ideas and solutions make it because they've weathered some storms. And that's what you want to do, is create the storm, prepare somebody to say, we're here to make it better. And everybody's going to have to give both an idea that's going to help the product or something that could go wrong. You can guide, as a leader, you guide the discussion so that it's balanced. That's where I feel like being kind makes a big difference. You be extra kind in that situation, because you know people are vulnerable, and you need them to be vulnerable all the time, not just once in a while. You need them to be able to tell you. And me as a leader, I have to tell people that report to me, or I have to tell people, I want to hear what's going wrong. Because as you get higher up in an organization, people tell you less.
They do.
They are not as willing to criticize you. And so you have to make it okay for them to criticize you in a way that makes you a better leader.
So buy some big girl panties and wear them. Put them on, go out there, conflict with kindness. You know,
conflict with kindness.
Buy the big girl panties and make them your best friend. That's how I'm going to summarize that one.
Exactly.
So that's your first one, conflict with kindness.
So the second one is what I think is one of the easiest things, but most difficult, is listening. You have to listen. You have to listen. You have to actively listen. So there's two ways to listen, and this is going to be this is what I've said to people. You have to listen to what people are saying, and you have to listen to what they're not saying.
Oh.
But
sometimes I just want to hear what they're saying, because what they're saying sometimes is really good.
It's really good. But sometimes what they're not saying is important, and you need to draw that out. So when you hear all positive and you don't hear anything negative, you have to ask for what could go wrong. So that's what I mean by listening. You have to listen for what they are saying, which is and actively listen to that, but also listen to what you're not hearing so that you get a complete conversation. That's an important thing with when you're talking to a finance person, because sometimes they're the messenger of good or bad news. And if you're only hearing good news all the time, or you're only hearing bad news all the time, you're not hearing the other half. So what I say is listen to what people are saying, but also listen for what they're not saying.
And I suppose a good way to support making sure that happens is to have that moment beforehand, to have a think about a full conversation, including inviting the conflict. This is all intertwined. I can see it now.
Yes.
But really thinking, look, if all I'm hearing is good, I want to invite some bad. And if all I'm hearing is bad, I want to invite some good, so that you can always have that sort of beautiful balance.
Yes. That is really a deep secret of mine, to listen for what people aren't saying, because that allows me to engage the conversation to a new level. And that makes a big difference.
Take the conversation deeper by listening for what has not been said and exploring that. Go in there, opening that door, knocking upon it, give it a little tap, say, hey, we haven't come to this door yet. Go through it. I'm all over the place today. I'm listening to myself. We've had doors and seeds and poop and all sorts today. All sorts. So what's your third power tool?
So my third power tool is so I think something in my bones. I am super positive. So I just am positive about everything. So I try to find the silver lining in anything that's going on, of how I can grow or what I can do better. And my energy is drawn toward that. So that is what I think allows me to have that people can trust me, that the one thing they can count on is I'm going to be positive. So they can bring a bad thing to me, and we're gonna work it out.
We're gonna figure it out. Yeah,
we're gonna figure it out. It's not gonna, I've got a couple, when people bring some really bad news, I'm like, okay, good to know. Now what are we gonna do?
But it's being able to take it's almost like taking everything in your stride, not positive in the sense of, because some people, somebody's positive all the time. All they're doing is banging on about how great things are when they're crap.
No.
Doesn't sound like that's what you're talking about here. It's
No.
about being able to look at a situation and say, there must be a possibility in this.
Correct.
Where are we taking it to next? This is just, it's just information. Where are we taking it to next?
Exactly. That I am not going to crumble. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to have an emotional, I'm going to take it in, and we're going to find a way to positively handle the situation.
Do you know what? This brings me back to the very first interview in this series was with a lovely lady called Marsha Martin. And she told me off because I was like, but the negative, and she genuinely doesn't see positive and negative. And so it's a really great one to listen to really take this point deeper.
Oh, yeah.
If you're somebody who's naturally always looking like the devil's advocate, there's nothing wrong with that. There's beauty in that. But understanding, if the devil's advocate is expecting it to go wrong, there's a devil's advocate who's looking for, the opportunity. And that one always gets accepted a lot more than the one that's pooping over and
Yeah, I know. And there's people that are naturally good at it. And I always find, and they will always they'll know that they're seen as negative. And so the devil's advocate is a great way to characterize them, because that's what vets a decision to make sure it's better. So we want people to be a devil's advocate, especially in critical situations.
Yeah, but there's a difference between devil's advocate and somebody who's just a pooper on every good idea ever known to mankind.
Exactly.
We don't like them.
No. That's where, those are the people when you can hear what they're not saying and you have to draw it out of them too. Because that, when it's all one-sided, it's not right. There's got to be a balance.
Force them to find the good. Force them. They're going to have to put on their big girl panties and tell you something good. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Oh my gosh, this has been a joy. Right, there's going to be people who have been listening and are having a fresh perspective on money, or thinking, okay, I need to learn a little bit more. I really had not thought about my relationship with my accountant, or I hadn't thought about the impact of those decisions. I want to be able to get much more robust in the way that I handle my finances, my business finances in particular. How does somebody get in touch with you, my darling?
So I have a website, smartmoneycheryl.com, and I believe, I'll have to double check, but I think there's a way to contact me there. And you can even schedule a little 20-minute session if you had something specific and wanted to be directed. I've been taking some meet and greet calls like that to get to know where people are, and understanding. I've been in the corporate world my whole life, so this is a little bit new to get out there as my own brand, Smart Money Cheryl, and to take it to the new level. So that's the best way to get a hold of me, is to my website, and there's contact me.
Bada bing, bada boom. All of which is in the show notes. So do scroll down, click on them. All the links are in there. Just, make your life easier. And you've got a little freebie for us as well. I do love guests who come with freebies. What have you got? What have you brought? Tell us about the goodies.
All right. So in order to start this journey, I started a little 5-day Find Your Money challenge. And so it's a free challenge. You join a group, and for 5 days, I do daily trainings, and you collect points by doing 3 things a day that take less than 10 minutes a day to do. The first is make your bed. Get up, make your bed. That takes 2 minutes. Track your spending. That probably takes 3 to 5 minutes. And then post a picture of the made bed and your money win. And I call a money win is where you made a decision about your money that was good and good for you, whether it was not spending money, which is very good, or spending intentionally on something important. You describe one money win. So that takes 10 minutes a day. And there's bonus points that might be a little bit over that I throw in as surprise to get people excited about money. But this challenge runs once a month. So every month you'll be able to catch it. And there's, I'm sure on my website, you can sign up for the next one coming up. And I do that as a completely free. And when you sign up, occasionally I have some freebies that come with that as well.
Head over, do the 5-day money challenge with Cheryl. Woohoo!
Exactly.
Right, girl. We've got to bring this plane into land now. I'm going to put you in the pilot seat. I'm going to be co-pilot. How are we wrapping this show up today? What one thing would you really like to leave people with today?
So if I was to leave people with one thing that could carry them through anything they're doing, it would be confidence. That you have the confidence to make your best decision. That you don't have to get confidence from anybody else but from yourself. So I would say that when you feel not confident, find your confidence. Whether you meditate, whether you reflect on a really good thing you've done, transfer that confidence to the money decision you make. And I feel like that will take you even farther than wherever you are.
Oh, confidence, darlings. You already have the confidence that you need to make fantastic money decisions that are going to transform your life and your business. You've been listening to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. If you've not yet subscribed, please do so. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't just hit the subscribe button, also hit the bell. All of the notes are in the show notes. Leave us a 5-star review, all of that good stuff. Until next time, it's been me, it's been Cheryl, it's been the Lovelda Show. See you in the next episode. Ciao, chicas.